welcome to come to the second seance tonight. So the second seance is about melody. And I think we can form kind of melody from ourselves or from cooperating with others. And we find how our neighbors have some tone. We are trying to make some melodies together with them. I know you don't know what I mean, but you will know it immediately. And you don't have to read every word. Again, I should say. You can choose what you want to read. For example, you can read the first word and third word and fifth word.
I'm Lin Chi-Wei. I work on art and I work a lot on sound, but I won't call myself sound artist. Actually, I wrote a very long book with 600,000 words. Or 60,000 words. No, 600,000 words on the term about the impossibility of the term sound art. So I won't call myself sound artist. I started my work when I was in college, around 18, 19. At the time, we have a band called Zero and Sound Liberation Organization. That was a noise band. It survived something like not even 10 years. And we make lots of experience. We make lots of experiments as well during that period. I think that was the main, it's the most important forming era for me to lead me to today's work. So the thing is about how to explore the time with sound in a group. So that's a little bit the thing I do until now. In the late 90s, I organized lots of concerts. I was kind of organizer of festival in the late 90s. And I organized many experimental music, especially industrial noise music festival at that time in Taiwan. And we invite lots of foreign artists to Taiwan, including the European artists and Japanese artists, which is also famous of their noise. And in this experience, I just find in many of the industrial noise performance, since we have lots of provocative actions against the audience, I mean by the artist. And during the process, you just find such an incredible creativity from the spectators when they react to the performance provocations. I just give you one example, which was quite influenced on my work. But it's not the only case. But I just give you one example. There's a UK band called Condon, Control Domination, which was harsh noise band, and we invited him in 1995 to a festival called Broken Live Festival 2. That was the second year of the festival. And he was doing this kind of harsh noise performance, as we know, and he's doing some live actions when on the live stage, and he's going to descend the stage and holding the hand of the audience to touch their own sex. So this action provoked very diverse reactions against the performance. For example, for a boy who was obligated to touch their sex with the artist's hand, it's like it's like turning into a kind of great agony because he didn't know how to react to it. And you see his face is turning like very disturbed and unbearable look. And the second girl, the second spectator who was tested is a girl, and she's like looking at what this guy do on her, and watching and smiling and enjoying even, really relaxed. And the third girl is like holding a chair and broke it on the artist's head. I think this performance, this is just one example of the performance I organized at that time. I remember even once there's some audience, I can call him audience because he's in the position of audience, but finally he actually built a temporary building beside our concert hall. He used the wood that he collected around and built something like a refugee building made of wood, but it looks a little bit like Eskimos' ice house, and totally composed of wood and without any pillar. So it's like a very organic structure. And he did it during the festival in 2 days. And it's something that you can refuge something like 10 people inside. So this is pure artist work that I find made by the audience. And there are so many examples, I cannot tell you all of them, but during that period, I just find the spectators can be even more creative and more imaginative and even more provocative than the artist. I didn't know anything about what we call participative art or collective art today, but I think the thing is evolving at that time, that evolving in my head. But it was until 2004 that I really integrate my performance, integrate the audience into my performance. Actually, that was what I'm going to do today. It's a development of the original version of a long tape with phonetic characters on it, and I will invite his spectators to read it. But it's not even an invitation. The problem of an invitation for people to participate in participative art is the contract is already made in the very small parallel exchange before the performance or before the art creation actions. So it will create such a problem that it largely reduces the possibility that the audience can take, because the participants are kind of adapt to the rules that are stated by the artist. I think that's the main point that make participative art not so creative or even against the creativity, because it is seeming like the artist give the rule for the spectators to play. So my strategy is not to lead to the whole group into the whole chaos or no indication at all, but I provided them some scores. But I even don't invite them to read. I just give them. So you can choose to read it, or you can choose to leave immediately, or you can choose not to react. But if you react, you are being part of the performance. And if one people start to read, the other may follow, but the others may not follow. It's interesting to see that those who are not follow, what did they do? Since the contract is not made, there are some extraordinary reactions from the audience. For example, there are spectators in Paris will cut the tape directly or writing characters on the tape. They make their own tape, or they make noises that is totally has nothing to do with my tape. So in this sense, the main problem for me about the so-called participative art is largely resolved in this work. I only come back to Taiwan irregularly, and it's true that I still have many contacts with the local musicians, but I feel very difficult to assess what is happening at this moment in Taiwan. There are many different underground tendencies, which is for me quite obscure, that I cannot really put a word on it. But as for the more mainstream sound art, it turns to be a laptop thing. So for me, it's relatively boring. It doesn't mean I'm against the laptop music. I do laptop music before myself. The thing is, it's turned into a format. Something is like offspring of Yue Ji, and or Karsten Nikolai, and you can find many artists that can depass their ancestors. So for me, it's not fun for me. Yeah, it's 300,000. It's true, it's 300,000. 600,000 words book. Yes, it's a large book. Actually, the way that I'm against sound art is not to. It's actually more than half of the book is about all the tendencies that I can find under the term. It's an introduction of all the tendencies I can find under the term sound art. So naturally, after you read all of this, you know there's no common thing inside. The only thing connecting them is sound. But as a method, it's not possible. You can consider everything you sound is sound art. It's as ridiculous as you say anything has a visual quality, it's a visual art. It will make this word totally meaningless because everything has a visual presence. Even dance, even sports has a visual presence, but it's not visual art. It's very clear. So we always get confused, especially for the newcomers, that this term is not so precise at all, to the extent that I prefer not to use it. So it's called Beyond Sound Art, the book. I mean, we should, for me at least, I think I'm exploring the way to work outside the dogma of what sound art is. And the thing I find is to work with the spectators. Actually, I was an anthropologist when I studied 4 years of cultural anthropology in school. I never graduated because I was working on noise things. And but that experience was quite deep for me. For example, we was doing the field research on Taoism rituals, that we enclose ourselves in the temples because these are secret rituals not open to the public. And we eat with the Taoists, we sleep with the Taoists for something like a week. We cannot leave the temple because it's a secret esoteric rituals. And during the process, actually, it was all these Taoists are passing through a certain dance and music and go to the heaven to see the heaven god and descend. It takes a lot of time to go upstairs, but it's quite quick to descend. Actually, I think they take something like 1 or 2 days just to visit the emperor on the sky, and they take probably not 1 hour or 2 to go back. But still very slow. Everything is so slow, and the ritual is long and repetitive and not so intense in many ways. But there are also intense parts. And so during that period, you just find everything we talk about in contemporary art can find its original form in folk practices. Almost everything. Something like, for example, installation. You can find the ritual installation in the field research work. You certainly can find dance, music, calligraphy, paintings, theater, literature, almost anything. Temple architecture. You can almost find everything from the religious art. But there is still something so different. I think that is the traditional thing is centered on gods, not one god, but in Taiwanese field research is on many different gods, some very small gods. They're gods only for one tree or one source of spring. And you just find, since in contemporary art context, artists are responsible for themselves. But in the traditional ritual context, the people participate is doing service for the god. So I think that's a main difference. And I'm still configuring what I can do between the two.